Hi, I have in front of me here an easy pull box that contains 305 meters of pure copper CAT5 UTP Ethernet cable. Okay, so what you can see here is I've just pulled out a small length of the cable just to expose it, and you can see it of course made up of 4 twisted pairs here. What I've done here is I just paired back the actual copper here. So it's pure copper, and the diameter of this is 0.48 millimeters. Okay. So some of the key things on this cable is the fact that it's pure copper means that it has much greater data carrying capacity, and also we can run over considerably longer lengths. Now, for typical applications of this, some examples of where people would use this is that if they were running, would say, a picture back from a camera that was a considerable distance away, what they normally try to use is a lower cost CAT5 CCA, copper clad aluminium cable, simply because it's of a lower cost. And what you try to do is you send a picture back over the distance, because it's not so sensitive to, say, power loss over the length of a cable, and try to source the power locally. But if you needed to run the power over a considerable distance, something like pure copper here is much better, because the runs you can achieve is much longer, and also the level of loss is much lower. And also, we'll say it does make a difference to some extent in terms of the picture resolution we can achieve, particularly if you're trying to do sort of much high definition HD pictures back down the cable. But the one thing with it is going with a copper cable comes at a cost, and the cost is very much financial in terms of it's much more expensive than the low cost CCA cable, which still predominates the market simply because it's okay for certain uses. But this cable certainly has its uses, and it's proved to be quite popular in terms of our overall cable mix. So what we're going to talk about now is maybe just mention the other cables that we have within our range. So if we came along and just looked on my left hand side here, we have CAT5 copper clad aluminium. So the main difference with this one is simply that it is the copper content is much lower. It's mainly copper clad aluminium, and it comes in a 50 meter, 100 meter, and also a 305 meter roll here. If you needed to run the cable outside, we'll say a typical application here would be of this CAT5 Ethernet cable that would a PE sheet on it. So it simply means that the PE sheet on the outside makes it both resistant to the water and rain, etc., but also it prevents it cracking over a period of time from solar wear, we'll say, from the sun. So from that reason it's much better, because obviously if water gets into a cable, it's effectively ruined. So that comes in a 50 meter, 100 meter, and a 305 meter rolls. And also at the top end of the spec here, what we have is something like a CAT6, which you can see here. We have this in 50 meter and 100 meter rolls. This is actually a 50 meter roll here. In terms of the actual data carrier capacity on the CAT5, it's higher. If we actually looked at the core wire on it, well, this is 4.48 millimeters on this particular one, it'd actually be 0.57 millimeters on the CAT6 one. So that gives a considerably bigger capacity, and it comes at a higher cost. But definitely this is a cable here that has very much a place in its market. So that's it anyway, an overview of the 305 meter pure copper Ethernet cable.